It's Friday, the 3rd of October, 2025. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Thank you for subscribing, being part of this weather community as we track things like this. This is Storm Amy. It is now moving in. We've been watching the winds picking up, those seas picking up. This is continuing to strengthen. Everything I've been talking about on this channel really over the last week is generally on track. I want to fine tune everything as Amy continues to work in. See these taller cloud tops showing me a very potent, very strong storm system. And as it kind of combines with the jet stream, a lot of energy, and that's why this thing is strengthening as it moves in, which means the winds are going to be substantial. So in this broad area, we're taking action to be on the safe side, but more action along the coast, no doubt, and across the Faroe Islands. Watching back towards Scotland, that's where we're going to have some of the higher impacts. Norway, as I've been highlighting, I've been watching your comments as well. A little bit more action closer to the coast and the core of this. That's where we're going to have some hurricane force wind gusts. Winds will be gusting to about 90 miles per hour, 145 kilometers an hour. That is on track because what I've been seeing from overnight through this morning is that this system continues to strengthen. So looking at the winds, this is generally holding from what I had yesterday. Now, what I like to keep things in perspective though. We've had bigger systems, right? With that said, I always want you prepared. So this is kind of a high-end wind, not in a hype fashion, just in a preparation kind of a scenario. How strong could the winds get if they are at its worst? Well, this gives us a general feel of that. As we work our way back toward the Faroe Islands, with the center that will be just to the south, even parts of Iceland, watching some of those gusts that will be substantial. Faroe Islands, winds 85 miles per hour, 137 kilometers an hour. We work our way back towards Scotland, the islands as well. We are talking about some of those winds that could gust upwards of 80 to 90 miles per hour. This is some substantial stuff. It's strengthening as it moves in. So I appreciate you sharing this channel with others to spread the kind of correct word about this system. Now, as we work our way into coastal sections of Ireland, watching Northern Ireland, we'll have some of the gusts about 70 miles per hour. As we work our way back toward Wales and England, again, keeping things in perspective, the center of this is going to be to the north. So we're not looking at these massive impacts, but no doubt a storm system around, some pockets of heavier rain, which I'll show you, and some gusty winds. And along the coast, we could still get some gust, again, looking at the high end of 60 miles per hour. If we swing back toward Norway, we're going to have a couple days where we could have those winds right around 115 kilometers an hour for some of those gusts along the coast, just persistent. So as we work our way back towards Scotland, today, tonight, into tomorrow, some of the gusts could hit about 90 miles per hour. As far as the rain goes, upwards of about 150 millimeters of rain is going to be a potential. Several rounds of rain, some big pockets of rain with this. Watching Scotland, this will be a high impact event. Faroe Islands, same thing with the center just to the south, winds down a little bit more, 38 meters per second, 85 miles per hour, 137 kilometers an hour. As far as the rain goes, looking at about 100 to about 125 millimeters of rain. More of it should be just off to the south, but there's going to be some substantial rain at times. So let's get a look at this, and then I want to zoom down with the winds. Now, this is this afternoon. Here's the center of this, right? Here's the core of the system and the rain with it. South side, it's not all day rain as we work our way back toward Ireland, Wales and England, winds gusting right around it, but that fetch coming in off the water, that big feed of winds, that's why I mentioned, even though it's not all day rain, gusty, strong winds. There's the core of it though. That's where the heaviest stuff will be. Then as we work our way into midnight, so tonight we're going to be dealing with a lot of weather overnight, kind of those winds howling. You know the routine. You've been through this before. Center of this sitting right here, but then that bigger batch of rain watching Norway south, even through Denmark, the Netherlands. We're going to be on the edge of some gusty winds and some rain tonight. Keeping an eye on Belgium, but still with the center here, that flow pumping in even overnight. Wales and England, there could be a better chance of some rain actually overnight with some of those gusty winds still as this system is just spinning. Then as we work our way into tomorrow afternoon, this is 3 o'clock, the center still up here. That's why I mentioned a longer duration event. Watching Norway and Scotland, those winds are still going to be howling even as we get these dry pockets filtering in. We're going to have those strong winds. And then you see the batches of rain. Sweden still down toward Denmark. Germany, better chance of rain. Nothing super crazy, but a higher chance of rain. Trying to get into western Poland. Still watching some of the rain near the Netherlands. Denmark, we'll see the high seas. Very strong winds along the coast, and on and off rain will continue. Very wind-driven rain as we work our way through the weekend. Now, looking at the winds, kilometers an hour and miles per hour, trying to keep everyone covered best I can. Here's what's going on as we work our way into this afternoon. Here's the center of this. It is strengthening as it moves in. You saw some of the yellows there. That's why I mentioned those high-end winds. That map I showed you earlier, very important. That's why I appreciate you sharing that information. By the time we get into midnight, the center is sitting here, but there are those reds and yellows again. So we're looking at winds that will be gusting 110 to 145 kilometers an hour, 70 to 90 miles per hour possibility tonight along the coast of Norway. And there's the center of it still tomorrow. And even as we get that dry weather squeaking in, you just get that feel, that strong flow coming in. Now, along the coast, over through the day tomorrow, across the British Islands, gusts could still be around 50 miles per hour. Inland, obviously, it's going to be substantially less. With the exception, we swing back towards Scotland, and still look at the Faroe Islands with a red shading showing up there. We'll have some of the winds still gusting 110 kilometers an hour, 70 miles per hour. So a long duration kind of feel. Scotland, Faroe Islands, swinging back toward mainland Denmark, and watching over toward Norway for some of those substantial impacts as Storm Amy continues to work across. Now, as far as the rain goes, I'll expand this out in just a second. You see some of these higher totals. This just gives us a sample over toward Scotland, where we could have some spots that approach 20 centimeters of rain, but then we swing to the south where we'll have these kind of dry batches with us. Not as much as you get toward Falmouth and London. We're looking at some spots maybe of about 25 millimeters of rain. Some spots not a whole lot. Some of us may be going, hey, what storm? Well, it is sitting just up to the north, but all of us will have that feel that there's at least a big storm kind of nearby, right? You just kind of get that feel. You get those strong winds. You know something is happening. But here's the center of this as we work our way into later today, moving in to give you a big picture. Here's a little system that I've been watching near Norway. And then as we swing back toward the Balkans and elsewhere, seeing some of that rain. Romania, Bulgaria, as expected, better chance of rain later. Today, some snow in the higher elevations, very active pattern. Then here's the center of Amy as we work our way into tomorrow. We'll be weakening, but there are those big batches of rain. Sweden south, I mentioned Germany, Poland, but on the backside, those strong winds still kicking in. Even as we work our way toward France, those strong winds, seas will be up some as well, Portugal and Spain. But again, Amy staying to the north as we work our way into Sunday. See some of that rain trying to get over toward Finland, Estonia, Latvia, parts of Russia, Lithuania as well. And there's a new pocket of rain watching over toward the Balkans again for another chance of rain. And then we'll keep an eye on some of the remnants of Imelda that was in the Atlantic. That has really fallen apart, though, kind of absorbed into a front. So as we work our way into next week, though, there could be another wind maker that eventually starts to work in. So the timing for Storm Amy, again, today, tonight, in through the weekend. I mentioned how it's a long duration, high impact event, especially Scotland, back toward the Faroe Islands. Power loss, flooding, tree damage, all a possibility. That's why I mentioned days ago, getting into action mode to prepare for this moving in. And while the center in or around the core of this, that's where the worst weather will be. And along the coast, we know that broad overall impacts, as I showed you, with areas of rain that will be moving through for some of us. Now, the hurricane season has been very active. This Amy, part of the remnants of Umberto, it really combined with a front, kind of like what we're seeing now with Imelda. So it's a piece of Umberto, keeping an eye on the remnants of Imelda that got tied in with a front. The next name on the list is Jerry. It's been a really up and around pattern. The hurricane season goes all the way through the end of November, and we could see more of these systems trying to work their way closer to Western Europe as we go throughout the hurricane season, because that's been the pattern. Really following the global trade winds, the Bermuda high hasn't been as dominant. It's been a little bit more off toward the east, allowing things to kind of go up and around and then eventually head toward parts of Europe. And the remnants that make landfall rainfall each year in the tropical Atlantic, 2 to 5, and we may be closer to 5 by the time we get toward the end of this hurricane season. Now, I mentioned some of these rain totals. That'll be on the high side. I see parts of Denmark, even parts of the Netherlands. We could have some spots of 100 millimeters of some of that rain. Portugal over towards Spain, not a whole lot. Watching parts of France, especially northern sections, for some of the rain. But then we swing back here. This is where we have some of those higher totals, monitoring the flooding. North Macedonia, Kosovo, Serbia, Montenegro, Albania, Greece, Bosnia, Croatia, Slovenia, Austria. We're going to have some heavy pockets of rain. Romania, I was mentioning that earlier. And then this here, tied to what's going on with Amy, here's Iceland, Norway. These are some of the higher totals. Norway will have some spots, especially along the coast, approaching 20 centimeters of some rain. So Storm Amy, it's moving in. The impacts are working in. It's still getting stronger, at least over the next 12 hours, before it starts to get a little bit weaker as we work our way into tonight. So it should max out in about 12 hours or so. Dangerous close to the center, and of course, those high coastal impacts. And hurricane season itself goes through the end of November. So thank you for being part of this weather community. Be safe with Storm Amy. I'll be watching your comments as we go through the day, through the night, in through the weekend. Be safe and have a good rest of your day.